At Emojipedia, there are no silly questions. Not, why am I suddenly seeing so many aerial tramway emojis pop up on TikTok? Or, what does this mean and should I be afraid of it? Not even, what is an emoji? Your first thought might be, well, that's easy, right? What else would emojis be but those tiny little pictures that we can sprinkle into our online conversations, slap onto graphics as digital decor, or even these days summon from the mercurial depths of AI with a short prompt? And some would argue that yes, emojis can be all of those things. But in an era flooded with digital imagery, pixelated potpourri, and AI-generated everything, it can be easy to forget that emoji hasn't always meant the same thing. Understanding how these pint-sized pictographs became global communication game changers shows us how online expression has evolved in the digital age, and where it might go next. So grab some popcorn, emoji or IRL, and let's dive in. Emojis didn't just pop into our keyboards one day, all packaged up with a neat little bow. Their rise to global online ubiquity started with a simple need: to show emotion where plain text fell flat. Enter Scott Fahlman. In 1982, he noticed that people on online Carnegie Mellon computer science bulletin boards didn't have a way to distinguish jokes from more serious posts. He proposed a string of characters that looked like a simple, subtle, sideways smiley, and thus was engineered the OG proto-emoji, the emoticon. A new internet era had begun. Soon came this iteration for goofiness, this one for crying and sadness, this one for surprise, and this one for flirty winks. Emoticons, a blending of the word emotion and icon, quickly took hold across early chat rooms, forums, and social platforms of internet antiquity. Meanwhile, in Japan in 1986, a different approach soon emerged independently: Cowmoji, made from full-width kana and box drawing characters and punctuation. Unlike emoticons, Cowmoji stood upright and packed expressiveness and nuance into the eyes, like this character for embarrassment, this one for being awestruck, and this iconic figure for all those irate table-flipping moments. Even though emoticons and Cowmoji, these text-based emoji ancestors, are certified internet relics, they're still used widely today, whether for simplicity or nostalgia or a mix of both. But remember, they were built from existing keyboard characters, no official status, and not emojis yet. Then came Microsoft's 1990s absurdist, almost Dadaist dingbat font, Wingdings. It mapped physical keyboard characters to custom glyphs. But because these pictographs themselves didn't have their own code points, for example, the capital letter J was represented by a smiley face, they weren't what we know today as emojis. But we are inching closer on the emoji timeline. In the 80s and early 90s, Japanese PDAs started stashing tiny pixelated icons in private use areas. They only worked on matching hardware, but they did lay the groundwork for embedded pictographs in mobile messages. Then comes the moment we've all been waiting for: the emergence of the emoji. In 1999, Japanese designer Shigetaka Kurita created a set of nearly 200 12x12 pixelated pictographs for use on the iMode mobile internet service from Japanese carrier NTT Docomo. Users can embed icons like a cat face, a sun, and a smiley in mobile messages, cross-device, cross-platform, within Docomo's ecosystem. But Kurita wasn't actually first. Japanese carrier SoftBank actually released a phone in 1997 with 90 emojis, and the first printed instance of the word emoji in its manual, a combination of the Japanese words for picture and character, which means any sort of resemblance to the English words emotion or emoticon is purely coincidental. So Kurita gets a lot of credit for popularizing emojis, but SoftBank did beat him to it. But the emojis of the late last millennium were a far cry in visual aesthetic and recognizability from the emojis we know today. In the late 90s and into the early 2000s, we started to see static or animated pixelated graphic emoticons in instant messaging clients. Typed into platforms like AIM or MSN Messenger, certain plain text emoticon or non-emoticon shortcode strings like these would trigger local platform native graphic emoticons that began to look like the emojis we know today. They weren't Unicode standardized, more on that soon, but they brought us closer in design, style, and function to the emojis we now know. We can't think or talk about modern emojis without acknowledging the framework architected by Unicode behind the scenes to bring them into being. The Unicode Consortium defines the universal standard that assigns nearly every documented digital character, numbers, letters, and symbols, for example, a unique code point. That lets them render and be read across all different types of devices, sites, networks, and operating systems. By 2010, Unicode had more than 100,000 characters, but no emojis. Apple and Google began urging Unicode to fix that. Some people at Unicode began to read the writing on the wall, and in October 2010, Unicode version 6.0 arrived, with 722 new emoji code points assigned. Now emojis were searchable, copy-pastable, accessible via system keyboards, embeddable in text, and crucially, renderable cross-platform. Each vendor, like Apple, Google, or Samsung, for example, renders its own emoji designs. So if you send this from iOS to Android, it'll look a bit different, sort of like a different font, but the underlying code stays the same. Unicode 6.0 introduced and codified emoji Hall of Famers like the face with tears of joy, the sparkles, and the pile of poo, which was actually a 1997 SoftBank original. Since 2010, Unicode has approved thousands more proposals, not without a rigorous approval process, bringing today's emoji count to nearly 4,000 out of around 150,000 Unicode characters total. So is Unicode still the final word on emojis, or is the landscape starting to shift? Okay, then what is an emoji? After all that, would you be mad if I said there might not be a straightforward answer? We've seen throughout emoji history the efforts to popularize pictorial graphics in online communication, before and after Koreeda's legacy-leaving Docomo emoji set stuck in our popular consciousness. And even today, emoji impersonators and approximators abound, perhaps more than ever. Welcome to the wide, wacky world of stickers. You know them. Stickers are those larger images or graphics that can be dropped into internet conversations, usually with rich visuals and often with animation or sound. You've likely seen them in the messages and keyboards of apps like Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, to name just a few. You might have even used them like emojis, but with no Unicode approval or assigned code points, they technically can't be classified as emojis, just essentially image files. Stickers entered the scene in 2011, starting with the Japanese app Line. They soon exploded, especially because they served alongside emojis as alternatives that allowed for more flexibility and creativity in who could create them and what they could look like. It started to become commonplace in the mid-2010s to see branded, often paywalled, proprietary sticker sets and packs distributed as image keyboard apps, like Kimoji, Kim Kardashian's 2015 app, MojiCam's 3D avatar stickers, and Futuremoji, to name just a few. And in 2017 and 2018 came Animoji and Memoji, respectively, Apple's more advanced animated stickers with motion tracking and its quintessential emoji-style design. Because these stickers had similar sounding names to, and even behaved and looked like Apple's emojis, and even sat right on the emoji keyboard, many users began to associate and even confuse the two. Then in 2024 came Genmoji, Apple's AI-generated emoji-style stickers, further blurring that line. You type a prompt, like capybara riding a surfboard, and the Genmoji feature spits out a playful little image in Apple's emoji design aesthetic. Like all stickers, they're not Unicode approved, but they appear embedded in line with messages, just like real emojis, so it can be easy to forget the difference. It's entirely possible that other major vendors follow suit with their own similar AI emoji integrations for users, meaning the emoji landscape could shift yet again. There's no shortage of stickers and creation tools that have democratized the making of images that kind of feel like emojis. Their influence and the rise of AI features have arguably blurred the line of what counts as an emoji in our collective mind. While these emoji-esque stickers serve similar functions, they don't adhere to Unicode standards. But if enough of us agree to expand the definition of something, does the original meaning still hold? Unicode defined emojis strictly. Pictographs with assigned code points in the Unicode standard designed for global interoperability. Case closed, end of story. But even though stickers, Animoji, and Genmoji, for example, don't meet Unicode standards, they still feel like emojis. And many function just like emojis, like Genmoji in iOS 18 and onwards. So is it possible the definition of emoji could expand to encompass something beyond Unicode's boundaries? Or are we sticking with the same standards from 15 years ago in a digital world that's advancing at fiber optic speed? So we look ahead without a definitive answer. But one thing's for sure, if emojis have taught us anything, it's that how we express ourselves is always evolving, expanding, remixing, and being redefined. And maybe that's the whole point. Follow Emojipedia on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and all the socials, and visit emojipedia.org for deep dives, explainers, emoji lore, and much, much more.